Good morning, my fellow yoga travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, live the life we love. Many of the things that have appealed to me are spirituality by the numbers, groups of four especially, four yogas, four winds, four seasons, four directions, four worlds of the Kabbalah, etc., etc., etc. So the ones that have appealed to me the most, and I can easily overlap into yoga, are the four archetypal energies as defined by Carl Jung: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuiting. And then the modern day way of understanding those phrases and taking it out of the psychological jargon to give images, because that's how the deeper mind communicates to the surface mind, by images, which is like a self-portrait of your own deeper instincts, which all have adaptational survival skills connected to them for thousands of years, deeply etched and impressed into our DNA. So the first thing I suggest is go to a sweat lodge, find some ritual purification, cleanse the doors of your own perception in order to see this. And of course, if you can't do the external sweat lodge, you can always do the dry sweat lodge. Just say things that deal with your ability to surrender, your ability to accept, your ability to forgive, and your ability to give thanks. And then you have the same idea of humbleness and receptivity as you reach out to the spirit. So let's go through these rather quickly. And you can always look for more of these on my playlists. The four directions or the quadrated order, the four portals, are all similar ideas. So the first thing we want to do is come into the king. The king says, I rule, I decide, I oversee, I center myself, I channel, and you're there for the good of the people. You are there as the terrestrial representative of the celestial forces to bless and liberate everybody. Like in the Jewish tradition, every Friday night, you're supposed to confer the blessing by putting your hand on the kid's head and remind them that you are a resource for the community. Women do the same thing. They are majestic in their own way. They command in their own way. They have their own graciousness. They also temper severity and mercy. And traditionally, it was the hearth. The goddess dealt with the family, with the food. They conferred the blessing of feminine graces by nurture, care, food, affiliation, and relationship, as we'll see later on. Now, women are warriors also. Okay, the Amazons, they kick ass and take names, even though they're mythological. They cut off their breast if it inhibited their bowstring draw. So women are just as fierce. Say, mother cub, yeah, a mother defending her cubs. You don't think that fierceness and protection, it's a feminine trait as much as a masculine trait. It's not male or female. It's like yin and yang. It's just for energy moving purposes. Of course, the male version could be like a Rambo, a trained specialist, a killing machine, disciplined, somebody that draws boundaries that keeps chaos on the outside of the realm, so life and culture can exist on the inside of the realm. And good warriors, not mercenaries, serve a throne worthy to be loyal to. They sacrifice and they're willing to die for what they believe in. So at least if we're going to send young men and young women into harm's way, it shouldn't be for a bogus ideal. Now, the wizard or the magician, also known as the Jnana Yogi, right? The warrior is the Karma Yogi and the king is the Raja Yogi. They have the esoteric knowledge of different planes or dimensions of existence. They're the keeper of the old ways, keeper of the old stories. And they initiate you. They steward the entry and exit in and out of sacred space. And they're the keepers of the traditional lore. You may not know it. You're fighting the battle, and God is your co-pilot. God is your charioteer. So you want to evoke a response, invoke its presence. Women do the same thing as the high priestess, the curandera, the shamanist. They have the cosmic memory as well. They're the fertility of the subconscious mind, and it's available to the initiated. Right? Very often connected to the moon. You can see all the fertility images in the pomegranates in the background. So women understand the phases that change through time. A lot of wisdom. Then the lover archetype, the bhakti people. Hari is called the stealer of hearts. Zara gets into you, forget the PhD program. But this is where purity and intent is important, and where you sacrifice everything, you give up everything to be next to the beloved. Nothing is more important than that. And that's where you discover your wonder child, the playful part, the vivacious part, the curious part, the genderless part. Very important to tap into that takes you beyond identification with biological or cultural defined sex roles. And of course, play and display, like John and Yoko did. Right? Nakedness really means there's nothing between us. That's what it really symbolizes. It's as much a psychological thing as a physical thing. See me as I am. This is me. Now, as you move on, each one of these four archetypes, the king and queen, the warriors, the witch and the wizard, and the male and female lovers, they have a space, a place where they activate those energies. For the king and queen, it's called the throne room, or could be the boardroom, or the golf course, or the toilet seat, or the car trip, or the meditation cushion. It doesn't matter, but you have to find that place where you center yourself. How do you know that you're centered? Your anxiety level goes way down once you're in contact with the inner king or queen, or the self, which is the same image of the same thing. And the warrior finds it on the battlefield. That's the field of struggle, or where you find your challenge. It could be the sports arena, it could be the bedroom. Where do you fight the good fight? Where are you willing to risk it all? That's an indication of what's going on in the battlefield. That's where the warrior tempers their energy. And then from the warrior energy, we have the scientist, which is the same as the magus, the jnana yogi, the laboratory. Where's your laboratory? Where do you experiment? Where do you organize and systematize your own body of knowledge? Each one has its own methodology, its own proofs. So for me, it could be the yoga mat. It could be the musical instrument. It could be an easel where you paint. It could be your journaling. It could be your dance floor. Anything can be the place where you go deeply and penetrate into the subject that you love and study with passion. And of course, for the lovers, it's what we call the garden, the private space, set apart, where you do your inner work. It's a cloistered environment, away from prying eyes, for your eyes only. And this is where beauty and creativity thrive. And that's how the lover gets hooked in. Now, of course, there's shadow aspects to all of these. The shadow king or queen is either a necrophiliac, not a biophiliac. And the queen, like in Snow White, needs to be mirrored instead of mirroring others. Who's the fairest of them all? Snow White. Oh, can't have another upstart steal the show. And for the warrior, of course, the Darth Vader, the dark side, the person who's lost their moral compass and serves the forces of destruction. The woman is the same thing. If you remember Kill Bill 3, the evil warrior can demonize other people and treat them as brutally and inhumanly once they learn to suppress their impulse to mercy. Got to watch out for that sadomasochistic warrior inside yourself. And then the high priest and the high priestess, they can also have evil intentions that are self-serving and not use their knowledge for the good of the community. It's not limited to the male third. You get Baba Yaga in the Russian fairy tale. She suffers no fools. She'll just as soon as eat you and give you the time of day. And she'll ask you a question. You better know the answers, because if you don't respond immediately, you're dead meat. And then finally, we come back to the addict. Numb yourself in order not to feel. Anesthetized to the point you're not knowing anymore what's what. At least when you shoot up, you smoke pot, at least you know what you're going to get. And so in order not to feel the pain, it's a short-term gain, but a long-term loss. You addict yourself. The last thing I want to get is each one of these has different lines of nurturance. The king and queen, the self, their line is nurturance. They want to include and bless everybody. The warrior is the line of aggression. You go toward your goal, and you're strong. You got to stand against the world. Sometimes you got to say fuck you to things. And the line of cognition, the witch and the wizard, have to do with the brain power that we have. How do we intensify our intelligence and study what we're capable of and bring more of our potential out? And of course, the line of affiliation, the lover, love me and I'll move mountains to make you happy, hurt me and I'll drop those mountains on your balls. Oh, I hope you got a nice kick out of that. And then finally, you'll know that you're in the shadow part of these, because the king and queen, either they command or not, they're just bossy. I'm not bossy. I just know what you should be doing. Watch out for bossiness. They demand things of you instead of command. And the warrior is mean. They create that sadomasochistic relationship. Somebody spews and somebody has to lap it up. The magician is the detached person. manipulates information for their own self-serving benefit, is in denial if anybody tries to put it back in their face. And then finally, there's the addiction of the lover. You go so far into whacking yourself out that you're no longer in contact with what's real, with what serves you. Have a great day.